Ladies and gentlemen, avid listeners, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Shadowrunnin on Empty. Got a lot of interesting and deep topics to discuss with you here this evening. And the person, of course, will be leading us down this trench of knowledgeable content. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of lost this red on that one there for a second, but you know what? It's fine. We're bringing it back. Easy. How you doing this week, my friend?
I'm doing well. I hope you're ready to step into the abyss.
You're
Huh?
you're doing well.
Yeah, there we
Uh.
go. If you haven't caught on by now, today's topic is underwater. Ooh. Not to be confused with the most recent second Avatar movie.
No, very
Yes.
much not that, because we hope to be half the length and twice as entertaining, so it shouldn't
Mm.
be a hard bar to shoot for.
Yeah, the bar, it's so low.
I mean, James Cameron was the one who's supposed to go down there and raise it for us,
I
but
know James Cameron was supposed to raise the bar.
he really was. But here
Look at
we
what he's
are.
done.
Here
Man.
we are.
Well, what better way to start off deep sea exploration than bringing it back to the scaly man himself, the myth, the legend, the former president, Dunkelzahn.
My forever president, really. I voted I voted for Dunkelzahn twice. That's right. I would commit voter fraud for Dunkelzahn.
At least you're open about it.
I feel like that probably would be counterintuitive for, his character, but whatever, man. I'm that excited.
So we're going back to his will.
Mm-hmm.
Remember in his will
Maybe.
where
There was a lot.
there was a lot. He had mentioned that there was a tidy sum of new yen for any corporation that could successfully secure and build an aquacology.
Aquacology. Vaguely. I remember the term. I cannot remember what it was for.
So he's talking about getting people to live underwater. A fully functional
Oh.
arcology underwater would be an aquacology.
He wanted to make Rapture. No
Yes.
gods or kings, only men. Okay, fair.
Such a great reference.
What could
Man.
go wrong?
Well, Mr. Bubbles, let's find out.
Let us, shall we?
Initially, the idea, the AA corporations are the ones in the limelight that are jumping at it.
Mm-hmm.
Which begs a lot of the question of why are the big boys sleeping on this?
Mm-hmm. Oh, also real quick,
easy money.
Sorry, I don't remember if you had said it. What was the reward for creating the aquacology that from the will? Like, what did they get if they were the first ones to do it?
I believe it was the tidy sum of 1 million new yen, somewhere in there.
Okay,
give me a second. Let's actually find out.
Because I gotta say, if the only reward is 1 million new yen, like the infrastructure price alone is going to be astounding in comparison to that. Like, it's not worth it for 1 million. It's gonna cost at least 200% that to be able to make a working aquacology in the first place, I would have to imagine. So 1 million new yen doesn't really
So
I
it
that
might have been 100 million. I don't know. I'm
A
checking
hundred
right
million
now.
more believable. That seems like it could also, but I mean, like, you also would get the prestige of being the first ones to do it, and you would also get to have a nice little check next to your name for like being somebody who completed an activity of Dunkelzahn's will.
I was gonna
Like,
say for your Matrix account, you get a gold check mark.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get some kind of little avatar item that's you get a little scrap of paper that just says will at the top of it, and that posts next to your name whenever you're on the Matrix. In your
Exactly.
signature, you get a nice little stamp that says I completed a will task.
It's like a little achievement that unlocks.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
It's 5 million new yen.
5 million again. Like I don't know. I feel like it's gotta cost more than 5 million. I mean, we do it for the check, right? We do it for the check
We
mark,
do it for the
but
check. We do it for the clout.
we do it for the clout. But like
Well, it
five
only had to
million.
be it only had to be self-sustained, fully functional underwater aquacology. It didn't say how many people it had to house.
I mean, that's fair. Like if they're just gonna make like a personal space bubble for like
Or even like building a small one that's only going to house maybe 100 people.
oh, I'm talking about like a little like underwater astro like a or like a nautical tent for like one dude. And he's like, this is my filter for bathroom and water consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Uh this is my dehydrator and this is my I like to think that the pod's got like rubber gloves and he just
Mm-hmm.
uses those to try to like grab fish as they're going by. He's like,
Oh,
this is how I
jeez.
catch my dinner. I just you just grab
Then
them
I
and just
put then I put it in the little box and I pull the box inside.
yeah, right, exactly.
It's
I
so
have to
self-sufficient.
I've had to become a fan of sushi, however, as I cannot cook in the tiny bubble of limited refiltered air. So I've quickly become a fan of sashimi. It turns
Mm,
out.
yes. The only two corporations that were big names that jumped into the idea were both Yamatetsu and another company called Proteus.
Proteus. Have we talked about Proteus
We
before?
have not. Proteus
Okay.
as a smaller, I believe they're just a double A corporation at the time. But the big name here is Yamatetsu.
Okay.
And of course, a lot of, like I said, double A corporations were trying to jump in on that money
Hmm.
because that's a free 5 million. Well, almost free.
True. True. And the clout again. We chase the clout here.
That's true. But this brings the oceanic development idea into the public eye. And if double A corporations could do it, then why weren't the big dogs of the triple A's doing it?
It's very true. Seems strange that they wouldn't trying to be chasing.
Just for recognition, Proteus AG is a double A mega corporation headquartered on the island of Helgoland, a prominent German mega corporation. It conducts research in biotechnology, naval building, undersea drilling, and aerospace.
Hmm. So they were already set to be like, we'll just keep going down. Like we're already under there anyway. Well, we're underwater
Mm,
anyway. We'll just keep poking around. Surely nothing bad will happen.
They have marine arcologies that they refer to as arco blocks in the North Sea, Sea of Japan, and off South and North American coasts. They are known in the public eye for these massive arco blocks. And to give you an idea, because if we're going to throw out the term, we gotta give it dimensions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the Argo block is a type of arcology built by Proteus AG. They are offshore self-sustaining colonies. The measurements of the big four in the North Sea are 1,640 feet by 1,640 feet base
Mm-hmm.
area with a height of 5,577 feet and a theoretical capacity of 500,000 inhabitants each, although the actual number of inhabitants are more likely 30,000.
Hmm. Okay.
Most of the North Sea Arco blocks were built at the sites of former cities that were destroyed in 2011 by the Black Tide. I know where we're going next. Obviously, it's what's the Black Tide?
Okay, good. Because I was thinking and I was like, that feels like one that I would remember the name of, but
When we talk about Europe more, when we get over there, then we'll learn more about this. But the Black Tide was a natural disaster that hit Northwest Europe on February 9th of 2011. A Force 13 storm
Jesus.
pushed the poisoned waters of the North Sea against the coasts and up the Elbe River, breaking dams and flooding large areas, including parts of the city of Hamburg. It killed thousands and displaced millions in the affected areas of Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, and the UK.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, nice to know that a Force 13 storm has wind speeds of about 41.5 miles per hour.
I mean, that's still ridiculous, but I was expecting you to be like 4,100 miles per hour.
Oh,
Like,
well, it gives you 133 to 149 kph.
kilometers. Those are for those weirdos. Metric system, never heard of it. Don't know what you're talking about.
So, well, that's good that there's a comparison to
Hmm.
what the uh, force of the storm would be. As comparison, um, in 2005 with Hurricane Katrina, which did not happen in the Shadowrun timeline, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But with the provided formula to calculate the power of the storm in open water, it would have been at force 20. And as it made landfall, it was force 12. And you saw all the devastation from that. So the one
Jesus.
that hits them is one force greater. So just one force. So you can imagine what the people were dealing with from the black tide.
Nothing good.
No, no, no.
Hopefully, Sixth World FEMA is more efficient than
Well,
than
with
our.
the fall of governments and whatnot, I have to say probably not.
That's valid and upsetting. You know what? Hopefully, you know what though? Privatized FEMA is probably a lot more efficient because they have to be. Because if
Well,
they're bad, another megacorp could just set up a humanitarian relief as a tax write-off type of
mm,
organization, and then
mhm.
they'll just sweep it and knock them out, and then they get to do all of that for free.
I suppose.
Mm, I'm just saying.
It also matters if you have a megacorp that's nearby in your area.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, it could be a thing it could be a thing that's like like if it would be successful enough that they could have it try to be like a branched national chain type of thing instead of just being a localized relief system. But
Hmm.
hmm, I would be interested to know just from a personal standpoint for a later conversation between me and you. I would be interested to know if there is like a sixth world equivalent to FEMA if it is like fully privatized, like what does that look like? Like what is I mean, did we cover that when we talked about with the
Mm-mm.
Sheedham stuff and
We
like the
we
super
did not.
earthquakes and stuff? Yeah, because
No.
that would be very interesting to know if there is any
For
type of
disaster
like,
relief?
yeah, disaster relief in the sixth world. Like who is responsible for that? You know,
Mm.
what is the responsibility at that point?
Hmm. That is something I will have to research for you, and we'll probably dive into that in a later pod.
For sure, for sure.
But back to underwater.
Hmm.
There is a attempt by Shiawase that's kept out of the limelight, but Shiawase is aware of what the other megacorps are up to in
Hmm.
their underwater escapades.
I was gonna say because of how successful it was.
Well, apparently Yamatetsu did complete the Cyotome Aquadomes.
Oh, that's a good name. I like it.
They have seen Shiawase has seen completion in oceanic development and harvesting blossom. So they're doing harvesting underwater as well.
Okay.
And this report comes from a potential generated. It was generated to evaluate the greatest potential adversaries in this field, their activities once Cytome went online, and soft probe intelligence for new technology and magic developmental projects.
Mm.
Oceanic
Oh.
Development and technology interests suffer from sporadic periods of intense activity. Many thought this was the case with the race to establish the first aquacology and the
Mm-hmm.
Draco Foundation endowment, but they would be wrong.
Mm.
Over the last 3 decades, technology has finally allowed for proper oceanic farming at reduced operating expenses. With such techniques as magnetic dredging
Interesting. Okay.
and metalliferous mud siphoning.
Is this just specifically trying to harvest metallic resources from the ocean, or?
Yes,
Oh, okay, that
like
makes more.
metallic mining.
I
Yeah.
at first I thought you meant just like they're out there like trying to use magnets to like dredge fish with fishing boats, and I was like, I don't know how that works, but you know what? If it's efficient, I guess I'll give it to him. I was very confused though.
The public
Uh,
assumed that the Cyatome Aquadomes and Proteus AG Arcoblocks were a renewed push into oceanic interests without realizing these were merely the first publicized instances.
mm-hmm.
Many megacorporations were already years into undersea development. The Draco Foundation prize scramble merely brought these companies to the force of public attention.
So they were all already doing it, but then they're like, we could make money off it as well. We get that check mark if we go ahead and finish
Yeah,
this,
or they
right?
didn't want to suddenly bring attention to themselves over it. For Shiawase, they report that fortunately for us, most of the attention has fallen on the shoulders of our competitors. We can expect to change. We can expect that to change, however, and we must prepare for it. They have to understand the competition well beyond the soft probe intelligence data they've harvested. With the endowment settled, most corporations are running silent again. We do know that all AAA corps have some involvement along the various continental shelves. Relatively shallow waters allow for easy access to mining operations through jack up and tension leg platforms. It's where the continental shelf drops off into the deeper plateaus that remain a concern.
Isn't it always?
Right? Any facility this far off the shoreline will be as far underwater as technology allows.
Okay. Yeah.
Depth is currently our best security measure against pirate gangs and Shadowrunners,
Mm.
though risk of encountering paranormal sea life increases substantially.
Shock.
I'm I'm so shocked.
I do have a question.
Mm.
What happens if you go underwater when you're in the astral?
I have an answer for you here. Hang on.
Because we've established that trying to go to space while in the astral is a big no-no, but I was wondering if there was an answer to what would happen if somebody went for an astral swim, if you will.
So obviously the most difficult thing that you have to deal with first is getting through the first layer of the ocean because it's technically teeming with microscopic life, so it actually shows up extremely bright in the astral.
Mm. Yeah,
And then
that makes sense.
the deeper you go, the less that is.
Okay. But the
For deep
scarier it is when you see signatures because the
exactly
things that
because
live in the deep ocean are nightmare.
you don't necessarily know what you're running into.
Yeah.
It has deep sea spells. Currently, magic plays a greater role in undersea exploration and development, especially when dealing with pressure differentials and gas toxicity.
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
Some spells have new applications. Detox, for example, can eliminate the intoxicating effects of nitrogen narcosis.
Oh, that's nice. Gets rid of the bends.
Other spells, like oxygenate,
Uh-huh.
may carry sinister connotations as spellcasters adjust them to poison the blood of enemies deep underwater, where oxygen is toxic. If the oxygenate spell is sustained upon a character deep underwater, that character will suffer from oxygen toxicity, taking, physical damage per minute until the character either ascends or the spell is dropped.
Jeez. So that's the bends.
There is
The
also
because
yeah,
I believe that's that, right? It's
yes,
the
oxygen
oxygen in
toxicity. Yeah,
oxygen
oxygen
toxicity.
toxicity.
We
The nitrogen
we
narcosis is just getting high off of
oh
nitrogen,
yeah,
and then
okay.
you start
That's
hallucinating underwater because you've been underwater for too long breathing the
right.
mixture.
Right. Yes, that makes
Yeah,
sense. You can
yeah.
tell that we're also good with words here on this audio
Yeah, exactly.
podcast.
There was a new spell that was created for this deep sea exploration called alter pressure.
Hmm.
You can alter pressure. It increases or decreases the pressure within a radius of however strong their magic is in meters, times 10 in meters.
Okay.
And every success that they have on their spell test translates as 1 atmosphere shift above or below the ambient pressure.
Interesting. So
The spell can have
spell co-
devastating effects on deep sea stations, usually by triggering the life support safety systems.
mm, I see.
High enough force spells of altered pressure may create a pressure shift that is drastic enough to crack exterior walls, pop seals, and otherwise bring the outside sea caving in.
That's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what if you were to say learn that spell and then like use it on a person?
So this spell may, well, it targets an area first.
Uh-huh.
So it may indirectly affect people that stay within its area of effect for too long.
Uh,
Anyone may suffer from oxygen toxicity, decompression, sickness, nitrogen narcosis, or other hazards. The alter pressure can be used to acclimatize a character who has ascended from the depths in the same manner as a hyperbaric chamber.
so it would take it a more extended period of time, but you could essentially pressurize people in an area if you used it there as well.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Not filing that down as something to maybe tell a maging to look into later.
I mean, it takes a long time. I mean, if you're going to use it as a you're thinking of using it in conjunction with the VIP lounge, aren't you?
And I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're saying
I
at
so
all.
look forward to
That
this revelation.
that would be crazy. Who would do that?
I know, right? Who in their right mind would think of such a drastic thing?
Such a unnecessary
Mm.
scenario to be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in. Uh,
But other than that, I mean, you're not really bothered astrally projecting.
okay. It would more just be having to get down far enough that you're not just immediately blind swimming
Mm-hmm.
through the astral ocean at that point, just because of how bright it would be at the top layer. Yeah, that makes sense with all the microbacteria and stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I just was wondering if you got down far enough, if it had some similar effect to going into space where, like, I don't know, I thought that maybe it would just be like too much, but I guess it
No,
makes more
because
sense.
you've still got uh the ambient manosphere from the Earth itself.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Whereas whereas we talked about before, if you're going too far out into space, there is
There's
no
nothing.
life. There's
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, there's
So it's
nothing
just
and
a vast
everything at the
void.
same time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the singularity.
If you want to follow a certain TV show, literally everything is in space.
Literally everything. It's very true. It's very true.
So
Hmm.
back to underwater developments, this report comes out saying that the other mega corporations have also gone into deep sea development. So
Hmm.
who are they talking about? Well, good old Ares Macro Technology is one of them.
Isn't it always?
Ares Chief public installations are surface stations, mostly rigs scattered across the Great Lakes and down the eastern seaboard. Few of these installations are oriented towards mining, with the exception of a fleet of 7 semi submersible rig refineries and their support fleet that troll the eastern Yukos and Quebec seaboard for oil deposits.
Interesting. Didn't we go to one of those? Or was that not Ares? I don't.
It was out off the Pacific side, out on the Pacific side, and it technically wasn't necessarily connected to anyone.
Oh,
It
okay.
was a derelict station,
Okay.
quote unquote.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Ares macro technology instead uses heavily armored platforms to conduct high hazard research. A key installation in this network is the Sigsbee Plain platforms west of Florida in the deepest part of the Gulf. Under the guise of Ares Space, Sigsbee uses the deep water to construct heavy module units for space habitats, as well as to test the integrity of equipment and units through high pressure immersion before shipping them off to Florida.
I mean, that doesn't seem too nefarious on the outside, so.
Well, who knows what else they're testing with the high pressure down there. Uh,
That's
while
what I'm saying.
Ares while Ares does not currently present a high profile concern for Shiawase, there's a 90% probability they are building a deep sea aquacology.
Off the coast or off
Well,
the Gulf.
it would be off the continental shelf of the Yukos in the Atlantic, most likely.
Oh, okay.
A Shiawase Envirotech ship was tracking Leviathan pods along the equatorial current with acoustic devices.
What does Leviathan pods mean? I thought there was one
Remember,
Leviathan,
well, there's one dragon called the Leviathan,
right?
but there are whales that are larger than blue whales called
Oh,
leviathans.
that's okay. Yes. Okay. That I was like, what do they just is it because Leviathan's so big it's a pod in and of itself? Like I was very confused there for a second, but yes, okay, yeah, the big terrifying scary whales. Yes.
Yes. So they're tracking the pods, and on their hydrostatic, they detected explosions
Mm.
just east of the Greater Antilles and Caribbean League.
Mm-hmm.
Later, a Shiawase ship in the area drops explosives into the waters for seismic soundings and came back with odd signature profiles indicating pyramid like structures at the bottom.
Hmm. Okay.
They have since determined that Ares supply ships leaving from Guantanamo Bay in Cuba make a run for these waters before returning. And the report states that the ships that are returning with a higher water line than when they left, indicating that cargo was dropped somewhere.
Hmm.
So Ares could have an underwater aquacology
That they're using
down in the Caribbean.
that they're using for something, but they don't want people to know about it. So,
But you have to think like this report states, it does supply some of the greatest security you could ask for
mm-hmm.
because of the natural barrier of being underwater that
Yeah,
deep.
right.
It's hard for Shadowrunners to get there. And even if Shadowrunners do get there, you're probably going to look out of place.
Yeah, and also like have to also have an efficient and viable way of getting out of there. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting there and getting out of there are two completely separate challenges in that type of scenario.
And they're
Like in
usually nightmare challenges too.
yeah, like in any other run that we do, it's like, yeah, every now like, you got to figure out your escape route, but usually it's like, find the door, kick it open, hope there's not guys on the other side of it, take off, see what happens. But like, nah, that far underwater, You better be able to know somebody you could hire that like has privatized submarine usage or something at that point. Like, and even then, I would be willing to bet that a facility like that probably has underwater defense systems built in some way to anticipate that type of thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's just all bad.
Or scare off the stuff that you find down there.
Right.
The next big corporation that is dealing in underwater is Mitsuhama. Mitsuhama's interests in oceanic development were believed to be limited to mining operations in the Sea of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
However, Mitsuhama Automatronics has developed a line of deep sea exploration and work drones,
Mm.
while their subsidiary Aston Remote Systems is developing tethered drones for subsurface tow deep sea mining. Supposedly, the riggers will control the drones from a submersible, ensuring zero hazard metahuman factor. So these drone operators would basically sit in a single man submersible to operate the drones.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of what we have now, though, isn't it?
We have a version of that now, yeah,
Yeah, the
where you you
little
can
pod subs.
yeah you can go down in a pod sub to a certain depth, and then deploy a tethered drone that will go and do research or collect samples from the bottom because it's easier to handle the pressure
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
instead of risking yourself.
absolutely.
For Mitsuhama, there was an incident near the Cape Verde Islands off Africa's Dakar coast.
Mm-hmm.
Mitsuhama had hired Shadowrunners to clear out pirates from an abandoned Mitsuhama mining platform.
Okay.
Then they airlifted in heavy equipment and expanded the platform's base.
They hired Shadowrunners that could uh wet works and construction at the same
No,
time.
they hired them
Oh,
to clear the pirates out, and then
uh,
Mitsuhama moved in with their heavy industry.
I was about to be impressed. I was like, yeah, that's
Right?
jeez,
A
man.
Shadowrunner team that can also do
All right,
heavy
boys, hard
mining.
part's over. Takes off the bulletproof vest, puts on the hard hat. Like,
Bring in the heavy helicopters.
the nice thing about the second part of this job is I'm in a union. uh,
Their reporting is that staff from Mitsuhama Pentacle, which is their research subsidiary,
mm-hmm,
magic research subsidiary, have
mm-hmm,
moved into that platform.
mm. So they're testing magic out in the ocean.
At least Mitsuhama is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what could go wrong?
There is a report from one of the Shadowrunners that was involved in the clearing of that
Hmm.
site,
But not the construction.
but not the construction.
Okay, fair.
Apparently, the so-called pirates were actually well-armed talismongers,
Oh, okay.
and they were throwing some pretty crazy magic their way.
So since it was a old abandoned Mitsuhama site to begin with, were they already experimenting with magic at that site to begin with, and then they decided to take it back and continue experimenting with it? Or did the pirates just already come stocked up?
Well, it was a Mitsuhama facility
Right.
before, right? And then I guess something happened and they evacuated, and these pirates moved in, and then they sent a Shadowrun team to clear them out so they could take it back.
Right, but what I mean is like were the pirates already rocking like magic items in order when they came to the base in the first place, or do you think that they found them there? Like, was that possibly already a magical research site for Mitsuhama?
Who's to say?
Mm.
That's tough to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, no sooner had the job been finished than, tentacles exploded from the water on all sides of the platform.
Mm. That seems probably not good.
Apparently, there was a kraken
Ah, just hanging out near the
That
complex.
well, yeah, they put a bunch of rounds into it to pollute the waters with kraken meat. And then they
Uh,
bugged out on an airlift, but not before spotting a megalodon fin cracking the waves.
oh my god. I mean, I guess it's a good thing that the ensuing fight didn't take out the entire thing that they just fought to resecure for Mitsuhama. You know, that would
Right?
be a little counterintuitive.
Sounds pretty scary, honestly.
Yeah. So, with the establishment of the Kraken and the Megalodon, then what other type of fun insanity can you expect in underwater sixth world?
Well, aside from krakens, megalodons, giant versions of previously known animals like squids and octopi and large
The
sharks, not quite
Leviathans and
megalodon, the leviathans, the giant whales.
hmm
There's the torpedo shark.
ooh, okay, yeah, that's a Pokemon. His name is Sharpedo. I'm a fan of him.
Well, in the sixth world, the torpedo shark has a bunch of dense bone and calcium buildup on their head,
hmm
and they have a proclivity of ramming ships to sink them.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have the large, obviously the large whales to contend with now as well,
hmm
where some of them will also just try and destroy fishing boats.
Is it because like can they smell the fish in the boat and think that it's just like like food? Do they think that it's like a large whale, like a large school of fish that they're trying to feed on? Or
That's under debate of
okay.
whether they're intelligent enough to realize what it is, or they're just animals that are following instinct.
I mean, they probably just think that it's like a can of sardines, right? Like you got to
I
crack it
mean, it's all
open in
right
order.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, you just got
exactly.
to crack it open to get to that sweet meat, you know?
Next on the list for mega corporations and their underwater endeavors is Renraku.
Mm-hmm.
Renraku's underwater living suffered heavy losses following the comet's shakeup of the Philippines and the revolution that followed in the wake of Japan pulling out their forces.
Okay.
Underwater living ran a string of submerged fisheries in the Philippines, and the 25-kilometer square dome city was expected to go online in 2065.
And then it didn't because of them
Because of the
pulling out?
revolution in Japan, forces
Gotcha.
pulling out. So it's just there now, neglected.
Oh, I'm sure that it's occupied by something.
Oh, probably. The imperial governor of Japan
hmm
has also contracted Renraku to build the first in a series of offshore arco block complexes to help with the overcrowding problem.
Is the Arco block system like pretty much relegated to like the
Shoreline.
well, I was mostly wondering, is that more like Asian construction like area for where they utilize it, or is it globally utilized?
Since it was kind of successfully shown by Proteus AG,
hmm
the idea of the Arco block is a little bit more widespread,
Okay.
and they've been contracted to help try and build basically apartment blocks that are situated underwater
hmm
to help with the overcrowding problem.
The population density. Yeah,
Not
that
sure
makes
I would
sense.
want to live underwater in an apartment block.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it would be cool for like the first month, you know? Like I guarantee you that there's like
Mm-hmm.
the wall of your living room is just like a glass reinforcement type situation, so you could just see the ocean. And
Mm-hmm.
that would be cool. But like
Until you wake
over
up and there's a giant eye looking at you
yeah, or like
from the huge squid that's out there.
You go to examine it one day and you start to notice this strange spider web crack in the upper corner that just seems like it just appeared overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that that won't cause any problems at all going forward.
Yeah, I don't really want to look out my apartment window and see a megalodon swimming by.
Well, you said it's mostly on the coast, right? Like, I think the big fish you'll be all right with.
I
I don't know how close
suppose.
to the coastline a megalodon's gonna get, but probably not that close.
I would hope not.
I don't think it can, like physically. I think it would beach itself if it tried to get close enough to a Arco Block scenario.
One of the reasons that the imperial government supported the project for Renraku so quickly was reported to be because it included a 5-star half submerged resort hotel that would have been able to house nearly 10,000 guests with top of the line services and activities.
Mm. I mean, that would be pretty dope, I'm not gonna lie. Like that's way more interesting. I would go to like a submerged hotel.
It even had an artificial beach that washed through the sea level floor of the hotel.
What does that mean? So
Like it
like
would
the
have the artificial beach and
uh-huh.
then it would be cleared away by the tide where it
Oh,
rises through the
int
hotel.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That would be pretty cool.
Of course. Underwater Living maintains a facility deep in the Java Trench south of Indonesia,
Hmm.
whose function remains unknown.
Okay, yeah, probably nothing nefarious if I had to
A
guess.
recent emergency forced the evacuation of that facility. According to the rescue ship that arrived on scene, half the survivors died from rapid ascent embolisms to the brain and heart.
Gotta be careful with that, man.
The facility, located an estimated 1,500 meters down, is currently abandoned. And right now, 2 submarine patrols the area, like 2 submarine patrols, not just 2 subs, but 2 submarine patrols patrol the area, preventing any ships from approaching the site.
Hmm.
So, what happened in that facility?
Probably just a normal workday, a 9 to 5.
That they had to rapid ascent to get out of there.
Yeah, that's not good. And this was a off the books one.
This was, yeah, previously unknown
Mm,
until this incident took place
mm.
for Renraku. So, what were they doing under there?
I always enjoy the nebulous nature of description of events in Shadowrun, but also it is infuriating sometimes where it's like I get that that is the hook because it's like
Hmm.
if you want to run the mission, like that we go figure out what happened down there, but also like
Right?
but also what happened down like I actually want to know what happened down there. Uh
Yeah, they just have that abandoned facility down in the Java Trench. That's all that's said.
mm.
There's nothing else
Well, fair enough.
for right now.
Hmm.
Saterkrupp is also on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Saterkrupp maintains 2 underwater training facilities for their aerospace program and dozens of mining platforms in the heavily polluted mineral rich tongue tied Baltic Sea.
Okay. What does it say what minerals there?
It just says mineral rich Baltic
Mm,
Sea.
okay.
It has an experimental self sufficient mining colony in the Iberian Abyssal Plain called the Camdis Deep Habitat Colony.
That's pretty cool.
Self sufficient mining colony underwater. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we have Yamatetsu. Yamatetsu is the leader among the AAA mega corporations in aquatic facilities. They were the winner of the Draco Foundation Prize of building the first self-sustaining aquatic colony.
Oh, they get the check mark?
They get the check mark.
Oh, snap. Okay.
They are also planning for their Kushiro offshore power plant.
Okay.
They are also undertaking a project called the Drake Passage Dam Project, which will be located between the southern tip of South America and Antarctica.
I mean, that feels suspicious, but
Well, you have to reach back to our Antarctica episode.
right. Which, resources and not a lot of competition for expansion and growth out there. So like I could understand the
Mm-hmm.
desire to go there, but I feel like anybody that's intentionally trying to develop research facilities in the Arctic are like the shadiest people. Like, that is the most suspicious that you can get is intentionally going to the Arctic because you want to build a research facility. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
While Yamatetsu initially concentrated its efforts on the Sea of Japan,
Hmm.
new mobile deep sea mining platforms have emerged across the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
These facilities could be the first in a coordinated mineral harvesting push to claim the vast fields of polymetallic nodules scattered across the Pacific Ocean.
Like a good nodule.
Yamatetsu is there. Right now, Yamatetsu platforms are siphoning the mineral rich, concentrated metalliferous muds of the East Pacific Ridge between Australia and South America.
Interesting.
Got to get that metal out of that mud.
I guess, man, everybody's out here just metallurging, and I was not
Right?
expecting that to be like the main appeal of underwater development, but I
Well,
guess
think
it
about
makes
it. They're
sense.
completely untapped mining potential.
Yeah,
Technology is just to the point of where they're able to do so.
and
I
I
mean,
know that
even now we can't really mine underwater.
right, and there's definitely like the untapped potential for like precious metals and resources that would be needed for like tech development. I'm sure that they could
Mm-hmm.
more easily get access to by being able to have self-sustaining underwater mining. So like I get why. It's just interesting to me that that's like the main driving force for all of the megacorps to develop underwater sustainability is just to be able to just get that those precious metals out there with their underwater sifters just going through looking for shiny bits. I find that interesting.
We need our shinies.
Need our shinies, man. I get it.
So at this time, it's still back in the early 2060s, right?
Hmm.
Shiawase Biotech is locked in a corporate struggle with Cross Applied Technologies Biomedical Division and Universal Omnitech to purchase Aquapothecary, a small
Aquapothecary.
Aquapothecary, a small corporation with offices across North America. Aquapothecary specializes in identifying the medicinal and magical properties of sea life and flora.
Interesting. Okay.
They have a sizable aquatic research station purchased from a Fuji subsidiary off the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific.
Okay. I mean, the Galapagos is the place to go to research,
They
research
also
weird shit.
well, yeah, because here you go. They also report that they've acquired they claim to have made a breakthrough in deciphering the language of the marrow and have brought on paranaturalist as an advisor. Paranaturalists.
Hmm.
Remember, marrow are the I believe they're the vampiric mer people.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what episode we touched on them on, but I know that we have brought them up
I'm
before.
pretty sure we mentioned them briefly. we talked about paranormal critters.
Yes. Yes. I believe that's what it was, because I think we brought up mermaids being a thing, and you were like, well, kinda.
Just for a refresher, the Meros are creatures that look like humanoid fish hybrids. They are known to use archaic tools and weapons and live in tribes, suggesting sentience. However, their sentience has not been recognized by any international institution.
Gotcha. So
There are,
they're sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there are two subspecies of Mero. One lives in the open seas of the world, and the other is adapted to fresh water.
Mm, that would be terrifying. Go in a lake and you just get jumped by a bunch of marrow you didn't know were living in
Right? It is
there.
rumored that some sea marrow tribes have developed advanced sapience recently, thanks to the magical intervention of a great leviathan.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Hmm. So their research is being able to figure out the language of marrow to try to communicate with them,
Yes.
which I'm assuming that the benefit of that would be to then establish them as a meta type if they are able to be communicated and show like, you know, like rudimentary civilization of
Hmm.
all that,
Well,
whatever that may be.
think of what you could gain too. Then you have, scouts that literally just live in the ocean that you
Mm,
could trade with, and they would be able to tell you where the richest deposits of stuff that you're looking for is.
very true. Very true.
Making a
No,
positive connection with them would be well worth any corporation's time.
yeah, no more spy dolphins. It's all spy marrow now.
No more spy dolphins. What was that from, that show? Was it Sequest?
Sequest, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sequest that had the smart dolphins.
Yeah, they also have there's also a parody of it in Life Aquatic, the Wes
Hmm.
Anderson movie, because he has two dolphins that have cameras taped to them that they try to give orders to, but they don't follow orders because they're dolphins. Like it's the joke is supposed to be that they're the like hyper intelligent dolphins, but they're just dolphins, so they just fuck
Hmm.
off and do dolphin stuff. It's
Amazing.
very good.
Yeah, there. This talks about if aquapothecary has discovered a means of communicating with the marrow, it would turn a new leaf in ocean development. Any corporation allied to the marrow can easily rocket past their competition and assume primacy in underwater pioneering.
Hmm. Interesting. Also, sorry, as a quick aside, because I had to I had to look this up because I remember my friend telling me about this a long time ago. Are you familiar with Day of the Dolphin?
Oh God, no.
Day of the Dolphin is a 70s movie
Uh-huh.
starring George C. Scott as the main actor. That is basically about a group of terrorists who try to create a dolphin hitman in order to use them to take out political assassinations.
My God.
My favorite thing about all of this is if you've never seen, you have to look up the poster of Day of the Dolphin because it's one of those like classically painted movie, like an old 70s like painted movie poster. And the tagline of the movie is just unwittingly, he trained a dolphin to kill the president of the United States. And I was like, you know what, man? If that's not a goddamn hook for a movie, I don't know what is. If you don't see that tagline and you're not immediately at least like I'm intrigued, like I don't know what to tell you, dude.
My
you
God.
you hate fun if that's the case.
Amazing.
uh so yeah, Day of the Dolphin. There you
Hmm.
go. If you want
Yeah.
to see some more dolphin, intelligent dolphin based insanity.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Sequest and Day of the Dolphin. Those are our
Sequest Day of
recommendations
the
for you, I
Dolphin.
guess, this episode.
Oh God. So here are some of the
Mm,
complications that we
hmm
have.
Mhm.
with exotic atmospheres and magic, since you were asking about magic.
Yes. Mhm.
Most underwater facilities currently suffer from an overwhelming Achilles heel in their
Mm.
atmospheric pressure integrity. If a deep facility pressurizes the interior to match the exterior deep water pressure, it likely uses exotic gases for breathing. This means most alteration spells that affect the oxygen helium nitrogen ratio could easily poison the entire complex before anyone could react.
Makes sense. Yeah, that checks out. Mhm.
If the internal pressure remains below 18 atmospheres, however, and the facility relies on standard air, rapidly increasing or decreasing the pressure will have equal devastating results on human physiology, sorry, because
Huh.
of expanding gas bubbles or toxified oxygen.
Mhm.
In either
Mhm.
case, the weak link is pressure.
Interesting.
There are two viable alternatives to the pressure situation.
Mhm.
The first is the simplest but easiest to sabotage. Most modern alloys and metals are strong enough to maintain an interior of 1 atmosphere regardless of the exterior's ambient pressure. In this fashion, it is easier to evacuate personnel to the surface without fear of the bends, and it prevents magicians from altering the air to toxic levels. In all the tests to alter sea level pressure with spells or elementals, facilities with expert system and rigor modified life support systems could easily increase or decrease pressure to ensure personnel never suffer from toxicity due to magic.
Mhm.
Safety systems can also add specific amounts of gases to combat toxicity. Unfortunately, extensive damage to a station's infrastructure could cause it to crush like an aluminum can due to the pressure differential.
So this will protect us from magic, but also could implode at any moment and kill
It
every
will
single
it
one
will
of us.
cover the magic aspect, but if they drop depth charges or fire a torpedo from a sub, we're all dead.
Turns out that there is such a thing as too pressurized, and that's us right
Mhm.
now.
The second option is costly,
Uh-huh.
but far more secure.
Mm.
Rather than relying on standard life support to maintain atmospheric integrity,
Hmm.
we can employ magicians or bond air or bound air elementals to
Mm.
create non-toxic oxygenated atmospheres at any depth without worrying about toxicity or pressure differential.
Hmm. I have a feeling that that elemental is probably non-union.
Probably non-union.
Mm.
They maintain the facility at ambient pressures, but use barriers, elementals, and transformation manipulative spells to protect the air from magical intrusion alongside technology to back up the system. An on site mage acts as environmental engineer and works in tandem with maintenance and life support to ensure integrity.
Yeah, that makes sense. I That's exactly the department you would want that guy to be in. I get
Right?
that.
Additionally, the mage can directly counter any attacks that could potentially breach the astral barriers nearly instantly.
Mm.
So, for these underwater facilities to take this second option, they would have to employ a small group of mages
Yeah,
to act as their environmental technicians.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, is magic that is able to like change air like that common? Because I feel like that's something that we've never really talked about, but like, is that, I mean, obviously a common enough thing that there's entire defense mechanisms put into place in order to prevent it, but like, It just seems interesting. I don't know if we've ever talked about that school of magic before. Like,
Well,
is
yeah,
it like
transformation and manipulation magic exists. So you would think
okay.
that you could. The only reason that it's not widely used, obviously, is because these are special circumstances and you're in a pressurized environment where the air quality is, you know, has to be maintained at certain levels and could be messed with magically. And so you have to defend against that. The reason that you don't hear about it so much on land is there's so much breathable air. How could you really affect an
Right.
area?
Yeah, yeah. On land, it's not as nearly as terrifying of a
Right.
scenario. I get that for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, interesting.
There is a secondary consideration to using magically altered air, and that is the problem stemming from exotic gas atmospheres that use helium. Because helium is a better thermal conductor than nitrogen, exotic environments are much colder and prone to condensation. This means that the equipment must be protected from moisture buildup and purchased specifically to work in exotic gas environments, which makes it far more costly.
Mm-hmm.
By using magically affected atmospheres, however, we can improve employee morale and productivity as a side effect and protect equipment from potential mishap because you don't have to worry about dew.
Like, just dew? Like condensation
Yeah, the
dew?
condensation buildup.
Oh, okay.
Because of working in these colder areas, there's buildup and everything like that. But
Gotcha.
not in a magically controlled environment. Now you have to worry about magical countermeasures.
Mm-hmm.
Most facilities rely on old standards, including elemental guards, wards, and punch clock mages, your wage mages.
I like a good wage mage. It's a good term. I like it.
Other research facilities are using unique structures, such as using FAB bulkheads.
Hmm.
The structure's walls contain a dead space filled with nutrient rich liquid and strain to phosphorescing astral bacteria to act as an astral barrier. And this goes back to your smart dolphins or trained paracritters to patrol the exterior.
Okay. Good old assassination
Good
dolphins.
old assassination
I
dolphins.
love it. I love it.
Or maybe going back to our eldritch talk, maybe they're incorporating deep ones.
That would be a terrifying prospect. I was also thinking that it would be fun to incorporate like the torpedo sharks
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as like a defensive measure. Like they have like a tank of them and they're like load them up and then they like have like a cannon that they like shoot torpedo sharks
Oh
out of
god.
at ships because they're like, oh, you don't have to worry about, like explosion, like
Mm-hmm.
force coming back or anything like that. You literally just
Ooh.
shoot holes into the ship with canonized torpedo
You think
sharks.
you think firing torpedo sharks from a cannon or having dolphin hitman would be bad.
Uh,
Just enslave a couple megalodons to swirl around
yeah,
your facility.
yeah, why
Nobody's gonna
not?
dive down there.
Yeah, for sure. Why not? What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, right. You could just never go outside.
Yeah, you're not allowed to leave, but nobody's coming in, so I
Mm-hmm,
like win-win, I guess. I don't.
mm-hmm.
That glass is certainly full and empty at the same time.
Oh, here is what's going on, possibly going on in underwater, that underwater living in the trench,
Mm-hmm.
that facility.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, it was to study the potential for krill harvesting, right? That's the official
Uh-huh.
story.
Okay, yeah.
But there are rumors that they're actually studying carnivorous plankton.
That's terrifying.
in the hopes of creating clouds of microscopic piranhas.
Oh my god, that's a nightmare. I don't like that.
No,
What if they
did, and then they had to leave suddenly.
what if they didn't do that though? Hear me out.
Mhm.
What if we just didn't? I would be down with that.
Yeah, originally the thought would be you would use them to sabotage fisheries run by other corporations. But what if it got out into the open ocean?
It's gonna get out into the open ocean, man. It's never not gonna get out.
Haven't you ever watched Deep Blue Sea?
Dude, haven't you ever seen any type of like environmental based horror? It always gets out, man. It always gets out. To think that man can control nature is a fool's errand. I would have thought we would
Mm,
have learned that by now,
no,
especially in the sixth world, but nope,
no.
here we are.
In the sixth world, I feel like it's even worse, and they don't learn from their mistakes.
They never do. They just they always see it happen and then they're like, well, I think we could do it better. And then the other megacorp steps in and then they make a more horrible scenario. Like,
Hmm.
oh, it's all bad. It's all bad. I don't like it.
So the reason for the Java Trench evacuation is that they were most likely hit by a mage.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
the hardest hit in the facility was the environment filtration system. Quick assessment revealed that all carbon dioxide scrubbers, oxygen injectors, and adjacent systems suffered extensive damage from pressure differential burst and water pipes.
Hmm. Okay.
Fortunately, the medical bays and biocontainment units sealed in time, preventing
What?
contamination of growth cultures and maturation tubes.
So did they seal it in time in order to prevent things from naturally evolving?
Possibly.
Hmm. That's bad.
Mm.
That's not reassuring.
Yeah, they deduced that it was the this pressure differential comes from arcane sabotage,
Hmm. Okay.
engineered from an exterior source.
Hmm.
They lost 15 individuals due to brain embolisms after expanding nitrogen bubbles from the evacuation.
Jeez.
This further drives Renraku to find ways of shielding their facilities from future arcane espionage. Yeah, because that's what you want to deal with in your underwater facility, is worrying about whether a mage just astrally skimming through the water finds your spot and is like, I'm gonna mess with this.
Yeah, let's see what happens if I do a little bit of this. Oh.
So the other thing to look at with these underwater facilities is your weapon tech.
Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me that highly pressurized facilities aren't going to just rely on combustion-based firearms? I don't believe you.
What? That's crazy. To prevent people from getting to some of these facilities, you have companies like Ares, Satyr, and Satyr coming up with imaginative engineers and scientists to form new underwater defense technology. Current trends emphasize technology over magic or bio research.
Mm.
It's olfactory defense. It's a recent chemtech development that has cleared the testing phase and is ready for approval. It is a defense method for divers and undersea vessels to frighten off or fool hostile marine life.
Interesting.
The principle is hydrogel is stored in thermal containers or even skin flap pouches like venom sacs,
Mm-hmm.
since body heat is enough to keep it in gel form. Once released into the colder water, however, the hydrogel reverts to a liquid state and alters properties, becoming hydrogen gradable, and is able to carry and keep any number of bioactive agents alive and thriving like portable culture cells.
Interesting. Okay.
They are bioengineering basically fish oil or fish smell, right? To
Mm-hmm.
match the specific scent properties exhibited by various aquatic creatures and controlling its release through the thermal packs. They can disguise a diver's scent from creatures such as megalodons.
That would be convenient.
Additionally, they can equip drones to act as decoys in high threat areas. You make it smell like prey fish and you attract the predator.
Right.
And the drone just zips off in a different direction to make it safe for your divers.
Interesting. That is pretty dope.
Right? Olfactory defense. Who knew? Another technique is to keep a small colony of toxic algae active within the hydrogel. Once released in the water, the phytoplankton contaminates the water with traces of neurotoxin. Not enough to harm the diver, but enough to frighten predators off.
Hmm.
So, finding ways to ward off underwater predators. That's
Fair.
just
Now I will admit, I thought initially when we were talking about this that we were going to be talking about like underwater, like dudes in the underwater bases and what they would use in case like Shadowrunners infiltrated and stuff
mhm.
like that. But I assume that it would just be like a lot of melee stuff and also like probably spear guns. The spear guns are always cool to shoot
I
in
was
underwater bases.
I would assume spear guns,
Uh-huh.
melee weapons,
Uh-huh.
shock weapons,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
tasers,
Mm-hmm.
uh and chemical sprayers.
Oh, what about also like a riot gun, like a riot shotgun?
Yeah, that fires rubber bullets.
Yeah, because that's basically just like pressurized shot, so it's not you
Hmm.
don't need the combustion
Right.
of gunpowder, which
Anything that can use compressed air, basically.
yeah. Oh, crossbows. Let's go. Bring back crossbows more.
Bring back crossbows.
I think that might be Kaze's next weapon that he picks up. I
A
might get him a
crossbow,
crossbow. Dude, I
the
want my goal
silent
is
weapon.
yeah, dude, my goal is for my character to be as stealth as possible, which is why I always forget that I have an invisibility cloak until just recently.
Until just recently.
But that aside, I have to imagine that crossbow tech in the sixth world is probably pretty dope. I may need to look into that with you at some point, easy, because that might be fun.
Well, speaking of underwater weapons, normally to defend facilities, you would think of using mines, depth charges, and torpedoes. Not if you're Ares.
No, I'm sure that they've got way more ridiculous shit than that.
In light of increased threats to their alpha level underwater facilities, they can no longer rely on these archaic methods. It is time to implement new defensive protocols based on research conducted at Ares Arms Trident Aquacology.
It's a hell of a title.
Right? I guess it would be AATA.
Mm, sure. Okay.
First, we have hydrostatic pulse bafflers, purely defensive weapon, usable as a short range deterrent for ships penetrating their own torpedo safety minimums. The HPB is a reinforced cannon that detonates a chemical charge in the barrel while forcing out the flooded chamber with an air blast. Reinforced bafflers around the cannon's lip shunts and directs the concussive blast towards the enemy sub and away from the facility. The range is limited, but it does damage any nearby vessels and will deafen sensors and hydrophone operators.
Huh. Interesting.
They're basically making a shockwave underwater.
A high frequency shockwave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Snake spine whips.
Okay. I'm assuming that they're called that because of the way that they look and not because that's what they're actually constructed from.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The feasibility of creating open air hydraulic tentacles proved difficult initially because the devices lacked a proper support structure to make them truly autonomous. At best, they were glorified and costly flails.
Mm. But when you surround it with water and let the water act as the support structure for you,
Ares Space, however, realized that both vacuum and water could offer enough resistance and support to give the tentacles controlled movement.
there you go. Uh-huh.
The tentacles are called snake spines because, like a
Ooh.
snake, each segment has overlapping and interlocking, quote, arms that prevent the chain from over contorting its frame and twist squeezing the bioneural bundles.
So they're not like full spaghetti noodles, but
Right.
they're good enough.
Additionally, each segment contains a layer of synthetic foam, a material that cannot be crushed because it's saturated with hollow glass microspheres capable of withstanding excessive pressures.
Okay.
Apparently, 50 pounds of this type of foam can support a ton of submerged weight. This way, the tentacles have the added advantage of being neutrally buoyant. Thus, they can be of any length because the water and not the tentacle's infrastructure and hydraulics supports the weight. They can equip facilities with 100-meter tentacles on a spool to deal with incoming divers and even vessels. The tentacles are strong enough to entangle divers and most fish, but not vessels.
Hmm.
Conversely, conductive rings covering the tentacle can kill metahumans and fish through electric pulses and fry a
Ooh.
ship's onboard systems through the hull.
Electro whips.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay.
We can equip other tentacles with hull cutters and drills,
Drill whip. Okay.
and
All
even
right.
and even cover the segments with mini chainsaw rotor blades.
Okay. I'm appreciating the versatility that's on display here. Fantastic.
I don't know why you would call these snake spine whips and not hydraulic murder arms.
I mean, I get it from an aesthetic standpoint. I could see why, but yeah. Also, hydraulic murder arms is like, maybe not the most publicly appealing facing name to give an item that you're trying to sell as a I mean, I guess as a defense mechanism first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, I'm starting to come around on this title.
Uh, Finally, for underwater defense, you have the Screaming Mimi.
Okay. Uh-huh.
This intelligent ambush mine lies hidden on the seabed floor. It then employs passive sonar to detect large scale water displacement from moving ships and creatures, obviously verifying the target signature to ensure it isn't a pod of whales.
Mhm.
Once something large Once something large enough enters its range, it calculates the enemy's intended course and waits for when it is closest. It then activates a built-in propulsion system that sends the Mimi rocketing toward the target. Rather than detonating, the Mimi attaches itself to the ship's hull or creature's flank and generates a series of overlapping pressure pulses between 10 and 60,000 hertz directly against the surface. The rapidly oscillating pressure pulses erupt as a form of white noise that drives ocean creatures away. On a ship, however, the sound travels along the hall's entirety and echoes throughout the interior. In addition to scrambling acoustic sensors, it agitates the canal fluid of a metahuman's inner ear through confusing signals that target the sensory cell wave hairs. This induces confusion, dizziness, and nausea, thus rendering the entire crew inoperative. The Mimi also serves as a early warning system to allow the facility to target the vessel's location. So there you go. You have a nausea mine
Well,
that is that is
that's pretty
intelligent.
cool. Yeah. I like a good smart mine. That sounds pretty dope.
So the Ares Trident aquacology is a research habitat that has about 3,000 personnel, and its main function is oceanic weapons development.
Okay.
The Trident Aquacology is the largest military installment R&D complex currently below the waves. If there's any new wet tech being developed by Ares, you can bet it's being done there. In addition to developing underwater technology and weapons, rumor has it Ares trains some knight errant firewatch teams in Trident.
Do you mean to tell me that they're developing the wet tech underwater?
Yes, that is the meaning of wet tech.
Hmm. Well, I assumed you meant wet tech as in like tech for wet work operations,
I
like
see.
firearms and stuff. That's
Well, they are training the firewatch teams there, and
mm,
remember, firewatch teams are specific to Ares in that their main
right.
goal is to go and take out insect hives.
Right, right.
So why not train them in high pressure facilities?
I guess. I mean, are a lot of the insect hives underwater?
No, but the confined space
Hmm.
would make for good training for tactical movement.
Okay. Yeah.
Plus the probably the temperature difference, you know.
Hmm.
And if you really wanted to, you're deep underwater, you can turn off all of the lights and you're in complete darkness. So you get the true feeling of what it would feel like to move through a hive.
Hmm. Yeah,
So it makes
that's fair.
for great training.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, all right, all right. I could see it. I could see it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You have the Satyr Krupp Camdis Deep Habitat Colony that has 2,000 personnel, and the facility function is remote operating mining colony.
I feel like most of the classifications for like all of these places are remote operation mining colony.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they all existed, you know, there about the time that it came out in the will. It's just they didn't jump at the opportunity
Hmm.
like Yamatetsu did.
Right.
So there we have most of what it's like to do or to have these facilities and where they're at. I mean, obviously, sometimes Shadowrunners are hired to try to break into these places because there's definitely some juicy tech that's being developed.
Man, the pay better be phenomenal for that type of
It
run. That's
has
all
to
I can
be
say,
really
because
good.
jeez, does not sound like a fun time.
Well, the other problem that you have to run into for your deep sea hazard is your cyberware and atmospheric pressure.
Yeah.
Because cyberware is a fickle mistress that does not often respond well to exotic atmospheres or high pressures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if nitrogen, for example, slows down nerve conductivity, it stands to reason that it would also have an adverse effect on certain implants.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I could see that.
In a pressure related matter, you descend beyond 200 meters, which is 20 atmospheres ambient, you will start to experience stress on your cyberware.
Okay.
And then every 200 additional meters, ambient ambient pressure puts more stress on the cyberware. If too much stress is experienced, you can expect malfunctions in your cyberware, or it could cease operating or operate erratically.
None of which is good.
No, suddenly your cyber arm just starts wailing off to the side. And then you are right. You also have to contend with, once you get in the facility, you can't use firearms.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Guns in a high pressure atmosphere are very bad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
To say the least, not
To
to
say
mention
the least.
combustible firearm.
Hmm.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad time.
But that has been our journey under the waves.
I gotta be honest, not as bad as I kind of thought it was gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all things considered, it's kind of just like more reinforcement of like, yeah, the ocean is terrifying. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I kind of already felt that, but
And they're trying, some of the corporations are trying to use those facilities as, you know, places to do some of their more possible nefarious testing away from prying eyes,
hmm.
because you have the all of the natural protection of being deep underwater.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that it's a nice combination of them, of the natural protection of being underwater and also the availability at any moment's notice to just be like, all right, just flood it. We'll just start over. Like, like it's got to be a lot easier to get rid of an underwater facility than if you have a like, than have the arcology happen again where you're in a major populated area and it's
That
just
is
like
true.
it's just all gone bad. Everything's just gone bad now. So being able to
Oof.
just kind of drop off the side of a trench if something goes bad is probably a very appealing prospect to a lot of megacorps.
Imagine the arcology incident, but happening underwater.
Oh my god.
How much worse is that?
I mean, I feel like that's basically the mission that we ran in Sinless, but you know what?
That is not even
except
close.
except we didn't have AI working against us, so I guess we did have the benefit of that. So
That's true.
otherwise we would have never been able to take that elevator back out of there again.
You end up in something like the first Resident Evil,
Yeah,
where you're dealing with the
exactly.
Red Queen.
Uh-huh, yeah, the AI program that says, you're
Mm-hmm.
all going to die down here. And I would have just been like, she's right. She's right.
We never should have rode that elevator down.
Game over, man.
It's game
Uh,
over. Uh, I mean, that goes along with our eldritch horror as well. Stuff from the deep.
yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping that there would be like at least one like side note of just like, and then this megacorp delved too deep into the expanse of the unknown. Like something like
Mm-hmm.
give me something like when
I
you were
mean,
like when you were like the research facility that got attacked by giant tentacles, I had a moment where I was like, because of eldritch horror, and you're like, it was a kraken, and I'm like, that's not as exciting, I gotta be honest. That's not as cool.
what Kraken exists, not as exciting as possible deep ones.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like
I
giant
I
squid.
was underwhelmed.
Yeah, I was very whelmed when it was a giant squid. Like We have giant squids now. That's not as impressive, all
I
right?
was
Yeah.
whelmed that they were attacked by tentacles on this platform, and then a megalodon came by and ate whatever it was.
Yeah, it had a giant sea battle between these two creatures, presumably outside of this megacorp platform in the middle of the ocean. Old hat. Old hat. Who
I've
wants
already
that?
watched way too many Godzilla movies. This is nothing.
Yeah, I've seen that before. You basically just described the plot of Godzilla versus Iberus, all right? It's just I've been there, man. I've been there.
If you're playing along at home.
uh but that I mean like I feel like that would be something cool if again like that would be the place that like the eldritch horror would work into because it always is, right? Like it's always underwater somewhere.
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that attempt that was made with that movie underwater.
You know, so I know that that movie is based Lovecraftian, but I
Mm-hmm.
actually still need to see that. I really need to see that movie. I
You're
really
gonna
want to.
you're gonna be disappointed, is all I'm
No, no.
saying.
I'm gonna be whelmed, and that's
you
fine.
you'll be very whelmed.
I will be very whelmed, but I am still interested, but I also know that I'm probably gonna hate it because I get very bad claustrophobia from movies specifically.
Mm.
Specifically because of The Descent. The Descent like ruined me.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, that'll
ev-
do it.
ever since watching that movie, I was
Mm-hmm.
just like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I get really bad claustrophobia when watching horror movies that deal with that like tight
Confined
space and
spaces.
confined spaces as a
Mm-hmm.
principal location setting. So I already know I'm gonna have a bad time, but
I was gonna say it was the sphere, wasn't it?
oh man, you know what? Close second. The sphere is also pretty goddamn rough.
Mm-hmm.
Shout outs as well to Cube. Cube is also a
Oof,
pretty good
oof.
one for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Let's just name claustrophobic horror
dude,
movies.
claustrophobic horror not one of my favorite subgenres, I will say.
It's a very niche subgenre of horror, but yeah,
Yeah,
it is definitely the one that you're going to experience the most of anything that has to deal with underwater is going to be claustrophobic.
very true. And I love like underwater as just a setting for things, so it's a real catch 22 for me. Because
Ah,
I'm
that's
like,
that's
man, I
rough.
really enjoy it, but oh man, I'm gonna have a really bad time. uh,
He had a bad time.
we had a bad time. I also to go back real quick on topic here. If
Mm,
I mean, like, I guess it would also be limited though if you think about it from the cosmic horror standpoint of what you would be able to find in the ocean, because
hmm.
not a lot of cosmic horror is ocean based. Like, I
No,
I I I think
it,
it gets the
it's cosmic for a
association.
reason.
Right, but like I think it gets the association because of appearance. Like
Hmm.
a lot of it is very tentacly and slimy and
Hmm.
like off-putting. And
Hmm.
so I think that there's a lot of association to it, but like really you've got like what Cthulhu and
Yes.
Dagon are
Hmm.
like your two like primary
Yeah, with the deep ones.
fee-based like
Yes,
horrors and then
but they're like
everything
the most.
else is
They're the most popular. That's
they
why.
are. No, they are for sure.
Like
Like
definitely the most well known. So that's
they've
probably an extra one.
they've got that going for them. So you do have that, but like and also like cosmic horror is very fear of the unknown and fear of the unknown is just categorically linked to the ocean. So you've got that in as well. So like I totally understand why, but I just I just have always found it weird that there's this weird notion that you always have to tie cosmic horror to ocean and not just they could be anywhere because there's so many other cool things that could just be anywhere, like the meteor from Color Out of Space could fall onto an oil rig and that
Hmm.
would be sick because then you would have like the ecology contamination down into the ocean and how that would affect and spread from there. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, see, that would be kind of cool. And that doesn't have to necessarily be something that is inherently ocean based.
Well, you also have to factor in that a lot of people, whether they have realized it yet or not, suffer from, was it thalassophobia? the fear of deep water.
Yes, the lassophobia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. That like I am that like the the concept of the open ocean is terrifying. Like
Hmm.
I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like I've had discussions with my wife before where she's brought up like the prospect of wanting to go on a cruise, and I'm just like, I don't think I can mentally handle that. Like
Hmm.
I don't like the prospect of just being on a boat in the middle of the ocean and that's all you got for like a week. Nah, that's not me, man. That's not, I don't think I could do it.
Hmm. Well, it doesn't help if you Google search for like deep, was it deep water, like, and then do image search. That's the true
No,
test. That is the true
nah.
test for you right there.
I'm not even gonna take that, dude. I'm taking the F on that one. I'm not even gonna take that test.
There
That's
is just so much. And
there
what's
is a
worse is that
lot.
people will take photos and then Photoshop them. So you're looking at a picture of deep water, and then someone has photoshopped in a much larger shark that's down there, or like you're swimming over a gigantic eye that's looking up at you.
Well, also like the prospect of going through and seeing things that clearly are like fucked up things, and you're just like, but that could be real. Like, like we don't know. There's no
Hmm.
way to know whether or not that actually exists down there because maybe it does. I think that that's the thing that freaks me out the most about the ocean is the possibility,
Hmm.
because like with other things like, I mean, space is like its own completely other thing, but like
Right.
terrestrial based exploration, like
Hmm.
we've kind of done everything, like we've done.
Except deep sea diving. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've done like deep cave exploration, we've done a lot of Amazon and like rainforest exploration and chronicling. So like
Hmm.
a lot of that stuff is accounted for, but like the best estimate for what we know of that exists within the ocean is like 40%. That's terrifying, dude.
Hmm.
That is a horrifying concept that there is still so much of it that exists down there that
Hmm.
we'll just probably never know about because we
No.
just can't get there. So,
Well, and then anything that we have done thus far that has gone down to look at the deep under underwater, you know, like trenches and whatnot,
mhm.
you're still finding new things down there that have never been seen before occasionally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it's just like there's so much of that that is just an unknown quantity at this point that I'm just like, no, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'll stay on the ground where
Hmm.
where I know what's going on here and it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
That is true. That is true. We're gonna have to reach out to our listeners on this one. You guys, come and let us know what frightens you most about the deep open waters of the ocean. Would you
Hmm.
live in one of these
Yeah.
aqua blocks, or would you live in an aquacology if it existed?
And why?
And
That
what?
it
Why?
Easy's question is would you? My question is why? And if they were so inclined to give us those answers, Easy, where would
Mhm.
they do that conveniently?
Well, conveniently, what you could do is you could join us over on our Patreon, over at Patreon/critical_hits. And for just $5 a month, you get access to all the bells and whistles and goodies of the behind the scenes, all of our upcoming artwork. You get heads up first on new projects that we're going to be working on. You get access to come talk to us in our Discord. You also get to submit questions to us here for the podcast, where we will do our Patreon exclusive Worm Talks, where we answer your questions that you have about the sixth world and what could be lurking in it, or reference to any of the questions that we throw out here to you during the podcast. And guys, if you are listening on not only the Spotify, but also if you're viewing this on the YouTube, if you could give us a like, that would be greatly appreciated. Like and subscribe, pretty please. We are trying to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without listeners like you and your interest in the sixth world. But while you're doing that, extra added bonus, in the description, you should find yourself an affiliate link for DriveThruRPG. And guys, if you've never used DriveThruRPG, I highly recommend it. You can find just about any book that you could possibly want for the slew of other role-playing games that exist out there. And if you ever wanted to branch out or try a new one or get supplements for some of the ones that you currently run, go ahead and use DriveThruRPG. Drop in our affiliate link before you check out. It's going to help us out, and it'll help get you that sweet, sweet stuff that you are already planning on grabbing. That's about all I've got for this evening for deep sea living.
I did also want to note in regards to potential teas here for what we've got going on with those added bonuses. We have secured the guests for the first non-public Worm Talk episode, and that will be going up shortly. As we just make sure that we get all the dates and everything finalized. So we are about to have our first one up. I did think it was weird. I was going over some of the ones that you had sent over to me for the Worm Talk subjects, and there was one that just the title of it said "He is coming." And when I opened it to look at what the actual question was, the only thing that it said in there was Haster.
I didn't send you anything that said he is coming.
But then how did that get to? But wait,
hang on. I got a notification here for another message. Let me just. So I just got that exact same message, and all it says is he is coming. I don't understand what that's supposed to mean.
I didn't send it. You didn't send it. I don't understand. But there's something is. Hang on. There's some.
You hear?
What is?
Hang on. What is that?
Is that coming in on you too?
There's this weird sound, noise, voice. I don't know what that is. What? Wait a minute. What the hell?
What's going on your side? Wait, what? What's going on my side? Wait, what is that? Wait, what? Hang on. What? Guys? No? Hello? Somebody? Hello? No? No? No?
What? No.
We would like to thank you for joining us tonight. We can't wait for all of the wonderful things he has in store for us. Won't you join us?
The Topps Company Inc. has sole ownership of the names, logo, artwork, marks, photographs, sound, audio, video, and/or any proprietary materials used in connection with the game Shadowrun. The Topps Company Inc. has granted permission to Critical Hits to use such names, logos, artwork, photographs, sound, audio, video, and/or any proprietary materials for promotional and informational purposes on its website, but does not endorse and is not affiliated with Critical Hits in any official capacity whatsoever.